Hey everyone, and welcome back to Practically Zero Waste, a podcast about making zero waste living as practical as possible. When starting out trying to reduce your waste, it's easy to fall into a new kind of consumerism. But what is true is that in order to waste less, we need to consume less. In today's episode, Will and I talk consumerism and waste as two sides of the same coin. So stick with us to hear the less glamorous but certainly more practical path of going zero waste. Hi darling.
Hello, I'm back. Everybody thought I was gone, but I'm back.
It's been so long since you've been on the podcast with me.
It's been a long time.
Well, it's nice to have you around.
Nice to be here.
You haven't actually been not in the house. It's just I've had other interesting people to talk to. Today we're talking about consumerism and how that deeply affects the amount of waste that is being produced in the world.
Yep, consumerism makes garbage.
It does. No matter what you're consuming or buying, it's going to create waste. So buy nothing and consume nothing. Not even food. No waste for us.
Exist off sunlight and air. You had an interesting statistic you told me the other day about how much garbage you have, how much garbage is created to make that.
So I read that on somebody's blog. Really accurate. And for every 1 pound of garbage you produce, 7 pounds worth of garbage has already happened in the production and manufacturing and shipping to your location where you have bought it. So that's pretty wild that no matter what, if you're buying something new, then the amount of resources that go into producing that product for you to buy it is way more wasteful than one, if you buy it secondhand, or two, if you don't buy it at all. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, the iceberg of garbage.
Yes, you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, all of the stuff that you're producing in your house and reducing and doing a great job reducing and everything. You are just seeing that small amount of garbage, but underneath that, or before it even reaches you, there is literal tons of garbage that is being produced.
I think I've actually seen a Photoshop picture to look like an iceberg, but it's a plastic bag.
Oh yeah, that was the National Geographic cover of the most recent climate change article that they were talking about, which is a good visual because there's a lot of plastic floating in the ocean. So what do we do about that? Because we still need to have some things in our lives in order to make our lives livable.
Yes, and so that, I think, in that sentence was the key word, which is we need.
We need certain things.
Yeah, what do you need? What do you want?
Yeah, that's a big conversation to have with yourself because everyone has basic needs like food and water and shelter. So those are basic costs that you'd have to be doing. The majority of people live far enough away from their work that they can't walk. And so you need to have some sort of transit, whether that's public transit or your bike or your car. For the majority of us, it's driving to work. So you need to be able to sustain that. We need intellectual and social stimulation and all kinds of different things to make our lives well-rounded and well-balanced and enjoyable. But I think that's where it gets kind of into a gray area because you can do a lot of stuff without buying or consuming or spending and creating waste inevitably, and it's still fun and you can still have a social life. Yeah, like having people over for dinner instead of going out for dinner and drinks. So it's hard. It would be hard to just suddenly have a super drastic lifestyle change. You'd probably have to do a lot of baby steps to reduce the amount of consuming that you have.
Yeah, what is a big step that you maybe recently made or made at some point to cut down on just what you bought? Well, one we were talking about was clothes earlier, whereas it's a lot of people buy lots of clothes. We don't need too many clothes.
Whoa now, we don't need clothes, okay.
Our parents listen to this.
You don't need an excess of clothes. You're right. You could just get by on a very small amount of clothing.
Yes, so taking a look at the capsule wardrobe or those kind of ideas is a good place to start, whether you're willing or ready to make a closet that small.
Yeah.
But it's a good idea to take a look at it.
Get some inspiration, see if it's even possible for you.
Yeah. For example, we know people that buy clothes and then they just have bags of clothes sitting around on their floor that they've never opened.
And it still has the price tag on it?
Because the fun thing is buying stuff and not actually having new stuff.
and maybe you get it home and you decide, oh, I didn't like that as much, but the effort of returning something is too big for people. That's the case for my Nana. My grandmother won't try clothes on in the store, not in the grocery store. My Nana won't.
They've asked her to stop.
My Nana won't try stuff on in the clothing store. So she'll buy stuff and bring it home, and then the effort of returning it, if she doesn't like it, is too great an effort, and that she'll just keep it, and she's just spending her money on clothes. She doesn't listen to this podcast, so we can say that out loud. And so many people do that, and I think that if you're one of those people that likes to buy clothes or books or a fancy new notebook from Chapters or just about anything in excess, I think that a challenge like a no-spend week or a no-spend month, even a no-spend day, that's a good place to start for a lot of people, would be really beneficial. Because if the idea of producing less waste in your life really appeals to you, then this is one of the ways to start that doesn't necessarily involve spending any money. Some people think that zero waste is kind of just for a more privileged crowd, and in a lot of ways, it is, because it's the privilege of time to prepare food ahead of time. It's the privilege of all kinds of different things. But if you want to reduce waste in your life and in the world, anti-consumerism is an excellent place to start. Because in fact, it is one of the only free ones that you can do. I know a lot of people, when they think of going zero waste, they start looking at Instagram and Pinterest and online, and they see all of the beautiful, beautiful things made out of metal, glass, wood that you can buy, that are new products being marketed at the zero waste community. That's fine, and it's nice to get inspired, but if when you think zero waste, you think, okay, step number 1, in order to avoid getting plastic straws in my life, I need to buy a metal straw, you are wrong. Let me just say, you do not need to buy anything to start going zero waste. And I think that's a big misconception for a lot of people, right? Like, people see all these beautiful things.
People like having stuff and people like buying stuff. It's whatever when you buy something, you have that rush of endorphins or whatever the chemical is that makes you feel good for whatever reason.
Yeah. We're coming from a very anti-consuming lifestyle here.
I don't mean that. Like, I like buying stuff, and one of the things we've kind of had to work on is buying books. We really like having a nice book. Kind of in the last couple of years, I bought books that I think I might like, and so I buy them and buy these nice versions, and then realize, oh, I don't really like this book too much. And it is fun to have something new to look through and look at.
And something beautiful too. Like, some of the copies you've bought have been really incredible.
Yeah, and so now, though, I'm trying to focus more on really reading up on the book first and reading as many chapters as I can without buying the book to see if I actually like it and if it's something I really want to own. So we've been downsizing our bookshelves to try and just keep the books that we really love, donating the rest. And we had some friends come over, so they had their pick of the books and picked a few of the ones that they liked. And
we got rid of a whole bookshelf worth.
So we're not trying to just throw them out, and we're not trying to just drop them off at a secondhand store and have them deal with it. So we will probably have to do that with a lot of them, trying to give away some of the ones to people that we know might like them. And then from now on, really just buying books that we want to have forever.
And definitely on that note, making use of your library if the library has books that you're interested in, especially if you're not sure if you're going to love it. Definitely take a read from the library instead of spending money on a book. Even though at Chapters, everything's pretty, nothing's wrapped in plastic covers to keep your stains off. Like at library books, I just find them really crinkly. But that's okay, because you can return it and it's all free. And if you get partway into a book, I've done that so many times with library books and with books that I've bought from Indigo or Chapters, where I get into the book and I realize I don't like this, number 1, and also life's too short to focus or to force myself to finish this book that I'm not enjoying. So if it's a library book, I can just return it and I don't have to commit to that.
Yeah, and I think Chapters does have a 30-day
30-day return policy.
So as long as it's in good condition, you can still return it. So hopefully in 30 days, you've realized, this really isn't for me, and you can return it. Instead of just throwing it in, then they'll resell it to somebody who perhaps wants to read that piece of garbage. Just kidding.
Just kidding.
That piece of recycling.
But, oh my gosh. the birth house. That was no good. I wasn't even pregnant at the time and I didn't like it. But then having not bought the book to begin with, you are not creating a demand for more books, because even if a book, if you buy it, read a couple pages and then return it, it doesn't go back in their system as this book was not consumed in the end. So you're still creating a need for more books to be produced, when if you're supporting your library instead in terms of books and DVDs, and not that people really, as far as I know, buy movies or music CDs as much anymore. It's still a place that you could get that kind of media if you wanted, without having to spend your own money and create the demand for it at the same time. So we've talked about clothing, we've talked about books. Those are big ones or relatable ones for us. I think that for a lot of other people, restaurants and going out for a coffee or a Starbucks thing every day or whatever, even if it's a local coffee shop that you're supporting, if you are looking to spend less money and produce less waste in the end, aside from bringing your own reusable containers, just not buy it at all and go without is, one, a good exercise in self-control, but also will save money and reduce waste.
And most health people seem to say if you want to get healthy, the main three things to cut out are coffee, alcohol, and sugar.
Ooh.
So if you can cut out coffee, that's...
And some people put sugar in their coffee.
Yeah. So
Which is the only way to make it palatable.
Yeah, so it's a 2-for-1 that you can be healthy and make the world healthy.
So the process towards voluntary simplicity or anti-consumerism or whatever. I guess first you'd have to identify where your consumeristic habits lie, what spurs them on, and then how to convince yourself that you can do without.
What is something that you've had to work through doing without?
In university, I almost literally ran out of money. I was still able to afford things, but was slowly creeping towards having no money left for the semester, and really had to force myself to stop and think about every purchase that I made and if I really needed it. So you can buy groceries, but you will not.
You have to,
Yeah,
I guess.
but you will not buy coffee, you will not go out for treats like that, you will not go to the restaurant, you will not go to the movies, and you will not buy clothing, you will not buy shoes, you will not buy new books, you will not buy anything apart from groceries and transit passes so that I could get to school. I guess it's nice to have the motivation of saving towards something or trying to maintain a certain balance in your bank account. This was before I had that fabulous budgeting app of You Need a Budget, aka YNAB. But trying to make sure that I didn't go below a certain amount in my bank account was very motivating for me. And I guess over time made things a lot easier. I'm not the kind of person that would buy something if I'm bored, lonely, sad, frustrated, angry. Like I don't shop with a lot of emotion. But there are a lot of people who will feel a certain way and will go shopping and buy kind of mindlessly to fill a need. That's not everyone, but that is some people, and that's something that needs to be addressed for you first before you enter into some sort of no spend challenge, because you need to know why you're spending in order to help curb that spending habit. If I have plans with my friends at the shopping center or at the mall every Saturday, then it is more likely that I will spend, not because I want to, but because others are spending. I will end up with taking home stuff that I didn't necessarily need or even really want, but might just have felt pressured because my friend said it looked great on me, so why wouldn't I get it? And I have the money because I know that in my bank account I have $1,000 or something, or $100 until my next paycheck. One of the blogs that I was reading said that they would spend their money knowing that, well, as long as I don't go below zero in my bank account until my next paycheck, then I'm doing well. So I know that I can get this, even though I wouldn't necessarily need it, or maybe I'm not getting the kind of thing that's on sale, I'm getting the thing that's whole price, or the whole price because I can afford it as long as I'm not going below zero in my bank account, which is not a good way to save money. Blog Mr. Money Mustache that says the only way to make money is to save money, or not spend. There's no get-rich-quick schemes that work universally, except for just don't buy the thing.
Well, that would be another, I guess, reason why people buy stuff is because it's on sale.
Oh, those things are just kind of more in line with an impulse purchase. And impulse purchases are rarely something that you need.
And just because it says you'll save $2 on this doesn't mean you actually save that money if it's not something you want or will eat.
In general, your eye is caught by this bright sticker that says, this is on sale. Or buy one, get one free. That is one of the worst sales because now you're getting two things when you probably didn't need either of them. And, or you're encouraged to take home two things when you really only wanted one. My go-to story for this that frustrates me so much is when I was in Ardennes and they had leggings on sale and I only needed one pair of leggings. I needed a pair of black leggings. So I went in and bought one pair of black leggings for $15, or I could have got 3 pairs of leggings for $15. Like, what the heck is wrong with that store? Just the consumerism that is pushing on this planet drives me nuts, and it's fast fashion. It's not gonna last.
That's why you need 3 pairs.
That's why you need 3 pairs. Why not just produce fewer and sell them and have them last longer? I don't get it. I don't know where I was going with that.
That's the end of that story.
Yeah. So whatever our reasons for mindless consumption, let me just say that with all the kindness I can muster, when we say mindless consumption, we are all about, or at least I am all about using the word mindfulness just to help guide your new zero waste adventure. And so if you can practice mindfulness in all aspects, not just when you're shopping for food and trying to buy things package free, but for when you have to make any sort of purchase at all, to very mindfully think about it. Can you do without it? Can you find it secondhand? Can you make something that you already own work if it's for a short-term need? Can you borrow it from somebody, get it from the library or a lending library of objects? Sometimes you can rent tools, sometimes you can rent
A lawnmower.
So shopping with mindfulness is a very important step because the best way to produce zero waste is to not buy something at all. So we can't live like that. There are a lot of essentials that we do need and will need to buy, and that's okay. That's not making us bad people. It's just a matter of being mindful and not consuming more than you need, because as we consume more than is necessary, we are taxing the Earth's resources, and the Earth will eventually not be able to keep up. In fact, it probably already can't keep up with the amount that we're producing. Have you ever done a no-spend thing?
I guess in a small way, in that my credit card, I wanted to have a bill that was $0, so it wasn't buying nothing, but it was buying nothing online. Generally, stuff that you're buying online you don't really need. But at that time I was buying a lot of books and a few other random stuff. Focused on that, and it was great when I finally got that bill that couldn't be $0 because then they charged me some service fee and I still had to pay for it. So it's a good success.
But that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. And I can see why online shopping would be hard for people because there's so much cool stuff on there.
There is so much cool stuff. And it's an endless hole that you can fall into of that looks awesome and that looks awesome.
Yeah, which I don't find too much anymore because I do a lot of research on anything I want to buy now.
Definitely before. So convenient. All your passwords are saved. All of your credit card information is saved.
I don't even have to leave my house, which is my dream.
Yeah, it's just a little scary how easy it is to mindlessly consume, there it is again, online.
And then they'll wrap your cool little USB stick in a ton of bubble wrap.
Yep.
Like, I could probably throw this against a wall and it'll be fine.
Yeah,
you don't need to wrap it in
an
anything.
excessive amount of packaging. Some places will ship if you request, I would like to have it wrapped in paper or no packaging at all, or even books. Books often come, if you're buying online from Chapters, in this nice, tight-fitting, cardboard-only box. You're just like, oh, I can feel real good about this packaging because it's all just cardboard and I can recycle it. But it's still, like, unless it was a book that you really needed and will love for all of eternity, then... That sounds a little extreme, but it's it's important. I have a friend who's actually done this. She has taken her credit card and put it in a bowl of water and then froze it so that she literally could not use it. So if that's what would work for you to just slow down your spending habits, you'd also have to erase all of your online credit card information that's been saved. If that would work for you as a way of starting a no-spend week, then go for it. Online shopping is hard too, because by the time it comes in the mail, we've usually forgotten that we've purchased something.
I watch that little progress bar every day.
Right, yeah. So when we'll buy something online, yes, you do watch very closely for, it's been shipped from Denver, I'm so excited. It says it's reached the border. But some people, I've heard of some people online shopping late at night in bed. And that seems like a dangerous place to do some online shopping.
No phones in bed.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to be really tired and, I don't know, not just accidentally click on something, but just in general, not be fully focusing on what you're doing. You're not being very mindful. You're not really awake. And then 3 weeks later, something comes, and or 2 days, if you're using Amazon Prime, 2 days later, you end up with something on your front door, and you're like, oh, right, I did buy that pair of shoes. Didn't really need that purchase. And then it's even more of a hassle to return something if you bought it online. That it's definitely not worth it in my mind. Then you're stuck with more stuff.
Yeah.
So I recently listened to Marie Kondo's audiobook, The Magic of Tidying Up. She is obviously all about having, in a way, a minimalist amount of possessions. Each possession is something that sparks joy and is something that you either know to be useful or beautiful or something that you really love and appreciate having in your home. And then everything in your home also has a place, which is how it's easy to keep your house clean, is because everything has its designated spot. But listening to that, it was inspiring because we were at the same time emptying out all of our bookshelves of the books that we do not want to read again, do not want to save for our children to read, don't get a lot of joy out of. And one of the things that I found really hard for me to give away was when you wanted to give away your copy of The Three Musketeers. You loved the Count of Monte Cristo. You didn't love The Three Musketeers, but The Three Musketeers was the coolest copy of a book that we've ever owned. Came from some old private library of somebody in the States that had this amazing leather-bound copy, and it was just really beautiful and had a lot of character and whatever. We bought it on eBay. But if you're never going to read it again and wouldn't even really recommend that other people read it, then there's no reason to keep it on your shelf. And that was hard for me to give it up because it was so beautiful. How would one start a no-spend challenge?
I guess look through your past few weeks of spending and see what you're buying, see what you actually need, what you don't. Take out all the stuff you don't need.
Yeah, there you go. You make that sound so easy.
Yeah.
You could write a book.
At least a small pamphlet.
No money. Yeah, small pamphlet. Yeah, because you're very succinct with words. You probably wouldn't fill a whole book.
Yeah, but I guess the main thing you do need is groceries and whatever you pay for your mode of transportation to get around, whether that's a car or public transit. Outside of that, don't really need anything, or you could push it a week. And then if in a week you still really want that thing, look at it again, or see if you can push it another week.
Yeah.
Sort of been one thing that we're doing with the computer. We've wanted to buy a computer, but other stuff comes up and we just do have the money for it, but I don't need it yet, so we'll just keep pushing it.
Yeah.
And that's been fine. Every once in a while I get really excited and look up a bunch of stuff about them again, but knowing that we're not going to buy it. And that's fine. We'll get it someday when we need it.
I guess if you are going to do a no-spend week, do like what Will says, where there's a couple of weeks of auditing your spending in advance so that you know kind of the areas of weakness for you, the areas that you want to work on the most. Pick a very non-stressful week and then set ground rules for yourself. Based on your audit, you'd have to think about the things that you personally need to stop consuming for 1 week, just to see how much money you save and how much less waste you can see yourself producing. The waste that comes with a single product or the act of consuming something is something that you can see. So once you've done your audit, kind of like a trash audit, where you see what you spend, then you'll be able to take that information and set ground rules for yourself. Like, I can go buy 1 coffee a week, and then that becomes a special treat, right? You think about, if I'm only allowed 1 a week, then I'm allowed to decide when it's going to be. I can either save it, or I can be the kind of person that uses it up right away, or uses it when I'm really tired, or whatever you want. You can decide with your own personal ground rules how you're going to spend your one coffee. Another good way, on top of your ground rules, is to have a budget.
Woo!
Woo!
Do you need a budget?
You need a budget. Yeah, we can't recommend enough this program called YNAB, YNAB. It has really helped us because we set a cap through this program on each of our categories. So for groceries, gas, restaurant, entertainment, fun stuff, boring stuff, rent, house app, all those things. There's a cap on how much we are able to spend because we have put all of our paycheck money into those different categories. So if you were to use that same format or that exact app for your no spend week, even with groceries and transit money or gas money, you are not spending in excess. We talked a little bit before about buying impulse purchases. It's important, one, to stay on budget, and two, to identify what your weaknesses are, what your impulse purchases are. Is it something that's just really cheap, so I should totally buy that? Or is it chips? Is it snack food? Is it whatever else? Are you shopping when you're hungry? Are you that sort of thing that's leading to these impulse purchases? Identifying those would also be really helpful in advance of your no spend week.
Yeah, it'd be cool for our many listeners if they could post like what they spend on groceries on average a week, kind of normally, and then they really try and see what's on there that I don't need to buy, or if this food tends to go bad in my fridge because I don't actually eat it up that fast. So to really go through that and just boil that down to what you need. That was, I think we did mention this probably in the first episode or something, but groceries were where we were spending so much money. We just looked at it on YNAB
so much money.
What are we doing? That's crazy. That's way too much money. So we really...
For two people too. Like
Yeah. So we had to really cut it back, and now we're just used to it, and we don't really need to think about it too much. It's just every week this is kind of what groceries cost, and
yeah,
it's good.
We usually will stock up things from Bulk Barn once a month. So those weeks are usually a little bit higher. So that means that we have to just be a little bit more aware of how much money we have left in our grocery budget for that week. And maybe we won't buy meat this week. Maybe we won't buy this fancy product this week. We'll be able to balance things out. That's probably something that's really, really hard to do, and also will become a really satisfying thing, is being able to handle going without something. I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits that I've experienced from a no spend week or a no spend semester, or even just these new practices that we've adopted since getting married. The satisfaction that comes from going without and being okay with that.
And as far as groceries go, meat's a good thing to cut out as much as you can. We tend to buy one thing of meat that we'll use that week. So it's either a pack of sausages or a chicken, or just one thing. We're not buying multiple and even freezing it for later, which would be fine, but we just get one a week generally. And for the most part, stuff tastes fine without meat. Like, we make amazing pizzas, and had chicken on it the other day, and it was like, oh, this is fine. I don't really notice it more now than when it's not. Because the only thing I really notice it is lasagna or something like that. I do
lasagna without ground beef, you notice, but quesadillas and
much the pasta
pizza.
we make are white sauce, so you don't really need it. It's good with chicken, but it's fine without it. Just a good way to save a bit of money, because meat is expensive.
And back to the zero waste aspect of it too, is that if you're not consuming products that come in packaging and meat, if you're not able to go to a butcher, then your meat is going to come wrapped in plastic on a styrofoam sheet. Ugh. And so to be able to skip that is a way to save money and be more eco-friendly, and I don't know, forces you to be a little bit more creative when you're not doing a meat, potato, vegetable kind of plate. You're able to make other meals where meat is just the garnish, as my dad says for some reason. I don't know where he got that from.
But you're a pro at the grocery lists and the meal plans.
Thank you. Meal planning is really, really helpful when you're trying to not spend excess amounts of money on groceries. That was probably one of the first things we did to try and cut down on our grocery costs. We gave ourselves a cap of $100 a week for two people for groceries, which, even saying that out loud, sounds like a lot, but
I think 1 month, the 1 month where we decided to do this, it was $700 in a month on groceries for the two of us.
we were like, whoa now.
Yeah. And I think that was a high month. That probably wasn't the average, but it was just, well, like,
Shocking.
yeah, we didn't have grocery lists, so we'd make a few things, and then partway through the week be like, oh, we want to have this for supper, so we'll go out and get some more groceries. And when it's a bunch of times like that, you don't notice how the money's piling up, and then you actually look at your account at the end of the month and realize you've spent just so much money on groceries.
Yeah, and when it's only 2 people, how the heck are you supposed to eat it all before it goes bad? Another thing you can do is, on top of meal planning, if any of this interests you, then to also figure out how to preserve your food, or figure out how to freeze things properly, or when you buy a bunch of groceries, to eat them in order of what will go bad first. That was another thing that I started doing in, I don't know, the year before we were married. I was just living in Toronto, and I would buy a bunch of fresh produce and meat and dairy products, and then I would also have a few canned items and pantry items. So every week or every 2 weeks that I would do groceries, I would have eaten through all of the fresh veggies and fresh fruit first. If something was going bad, I would chop it up first and freeze it, or cook it in a meal and freeze it. And then I would have things that were just canned items or pantry items at the end of the week. And that was really important, because that helped me learn a lot about preventing food waste and how to properly store things in the fridge. Buying a food that you think you should be eating, or that you think you should like, especially with all these health trends that are happening right now.
You don't need avocado.
You don't need kale. If you're looking at your fridge and seeing something that's in the back of your fridge that you're just like, that's going bad, and I'm just going to leave it there until it's so bad that I can't even try and save it, just so I don't feel bad about throwing it out, you should just stop buying that thing. If you can't think of how to cook it and that you would like to eat it, then just don't spend your money on it. Buy the food that you like. Try to be healthy, but buy the food that you like. Pick your top 5 favorite meals that you'd like to cook, and cook them over the course of 7 days, and maybe have leftovers for the other 2 days. And that way you're not wasting as much food. So good luck to anybody who wants to do a no spend week. I think that is such a good way to get started, and slows life down just enough to make you think about your purchases, and to make you really mindful of what it is that you're buying, what it is that you're spending money on, if it's going out with friends and the movies and concerts and things like that. Anything that costs money, it's fine to spend your money, but just to be mindful of it and know that almost any sort of consumption is creating waste. If you want to take zero waste to the next level, then there's a good way to start, is to just buy nothing.
Yeah. If anybody else can think of any fun ideas of how to save food, or save money, or save
the planet,
let us know, because we would
love to hear
like to know that.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. Like we said, we'd love to hear in the comments below some of your experience with a no spend week, and any thoughts you might have on making a waste-free life more practical for everyone. If you're new to the podcast, hit the subscribe button below, and check out our playlist from the beginning to hear past episodes of Practically Zero Waste. Good luck saying no to consumerism, and have a great week.